Welcome to the Indie Film Hustle Podcast, episode number 47. If a million people see my movie, I hope they see a million different movies. Quentin Tarantino.
Broadcasting from the back alley in Hollywood, it's the Indie Film Hustle Podcast, where we show you how to survive and thrive as an indie filmmaker in the jungles of the film biz. And here's your host, Alex Ferrari.
Welcome, my indie film hustlers. I am your humble host, Alex Ferrari. Head over to freefilmbook.com. That's freefilmbook.com to download your free film audiobook from Audible. And our show is sponsored today by USC Film School's only online course, Directing the Actor, by the legendary Nina Foch. You can download that at indiefilmhustle.com/USC. Today, guys, we have a special treat. We have a really old good friend of mine, Yancey Arias. He is an actor who's been in a million different movies. I mean, I can't even explain to you how many movies he's been in. He's been on so many shows. He's been on over 70. He officially has 70 acting credits on film, television, and Broadway. Over 70 acting credits on shows like Castle, NCIS New Orleans, The Sopranos, Bones, Hawaii Five-0, Elementary, CSI New York, NCIS Los Angeles, Burn Notice, The Shield, and has been on big, huge tentpole movies like Live Free or Die Hard, Time Machine, and the upcoming new film coming out with Robert DeNiro called Hands of Stone. He is a working actor. That's what I like to call Yancey. Yancey is definitely a working actor. He's been in the business for years and years and years. You really won't nicer, not only a nicer actor, but nicer human being. I've worked with Yancey in a few projects in the past, and he's been nothing but a pleasure to work with. And he teaches acting as well. And I wanted him on the show to kind of, let people know what it takes, not only to be a working actor, but to be a working professional in the industry. And a lot of the stuff that he talks about in regards to acting can easily be translated into directing, writing, or any other discipline within the filmmaking business. Now, if acting wasn't enough, Yancey is also a very good director and producer working with his production company, NYC Films. He's producing multiple different projects as a director and a producer, and worked on a wonderful little film called The Shooting Star Salesman with one of our former guests as a director, Kiko Velarde. Now, Yancey is a very hard man to get a hold of. He is working constantly. I actually got him to do this interview in between takes on the set of Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which he's going to be either has already aired or will be airing soon. So he's going to be in between. So you'll hear some things in the background. You hear some doors closing and opening. He's just basically waiting around between scenes, and he was gracious enough to do this interview for us. So enjoy my interview with Yancey Arias. Yancey, man, thanks so much for being on the show, man. I know you're extremely busy, so thanks again, man.
You're welcome, man. Please, anytime.
So we'll get right to it. What was your first experience in the entertainment business?
My grandma and my mom, they were hosting a competition for the Menudos for the best lip-syncing group that there could possibly be in the Lower East Side of Manhattan.
Now Menudo is the One Direction of our time.
The One Direction of our time, correct. But the Puerto Rican kids, the Menudos. So, and I basically was the intermission entertainment, and I actually was singing for real. I wasn't lip syncing. I was just kind of like, they threw me on stage as a filler. And everybody sat down when they heard my voice, and, it was a really nice experience because it was a beautiful song that was from the Menudos, but it was something that was touching to them because one of the guys was leaving the group, and I sang his song, No Me Olvides, is it Don't Forget Me. So all the girls went nuts, and they started crying, and and it was just like an amazing experience of contacting an audience and giving them something they wanted to hear, and also having a voice and being accepted. And I was just like, wow, okay, this might be something I like to do. And from there on, my mom supported me, in everything I wanted to do in terms of my entertainment, experience.
Now, what made you want to be an actor? Like, there's a difference between jumping on stage and singing than becoming an actor.
Acting, correct. So basically, when I went to high school about 2 years after the fact, I was 14. I was 12 when that happened, when I got on stage for the first time. And I was 14 when I went to a high school by the name of St. John's Prep in Astoria, Queens. and I met the wonderful James R. Green, who coincidentally, saw me on the train, on the 7 train, or actually the N&R train, headed back into the city with my guys that I hung out with from the baseball team, and we were all clowning around singing, these funny songs, a lot of like doo-wop and 50s greats,
Hmm.
and we were singing Always and Forever. I'll never forget
Oh yeah.
Always and Forever. And he was like, I want all you guys to audition for the school play. So, I was the only one who was interested, and I auditioned, and he gave me the lead role. I was the only one who could really sing that year. and and he made a deal with me. He says, I'm going to teach you how to sing, and you're going to teach me how to speak Spanish, because he was an opera singer.
Uh-huh.
So he wanted to sing with a better accent, his arias. And coincidentally, my name is Yancey Arias. So, what a great duo. So he then introduced me to Jack Romano, who was the main director of the place called Stage Door Manor up in Loch Sheldrick, New York, where I studied acting and singing and dancing and everything as a little kid from age 14 to 17. So I got a nice scholarship, every summer doing, plays. And during the winter season, I was doing plays with Mr. Green. And then at another high school that I had to end up going because I moved to Staten Island at more Catholic. So throughout the high school years, I did about maybe 12 plays,
Right.
And mostly musical, and
Hmm.
some straight plays. But I soaked it all up, man. That's when I knew this is what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And it was literally at the age of 15 where I confirmed it. Like 14, I wet my feet. 15, I was like, no, this is it. This is me. This is who I am. This is my calling. So
That's awesome, man.
yeah. And then I went on to college, to Carnegie Mellon University. I was accepted there, and I studied there for another 2 years between age 19 and 20. And then at 22, I got Miss Saigon on Broadway, and I continued my
Really?
education. Yeah, yeah.
That must have been wow. That
That was a dream come true, because when I was in high school, I saw Les Miserables in the front row center seat,
uh-huh.
and I was bawling. It was just an amazing experience, and
Oh, I can imagine.
I literally said, I'm going to be on this stage someday. I will perform on this stage someday. And kid you not, that's exactly what happened. About 5 years later, I booked Miss Saigon, and I'm in that theater, in the very same theater. And you can imagine, when I was rehearsing for Miss Saigon,
Uh-huh.
and I was looking at the play from the audience perspective, because that's what you do before actually, when you jump on a show
Hmm.
that's already established, you have to watch the show several times
Hmm.
so you see how it all works before you're actually on there. And I was in tears then, just like, wow, I made a very strong commitment and a conviction that I would be at this theater, this very theater, working on this very stage, and here I am. And it was a wonderful training ground. It was a wonderful experience. I did it for 6 years.
Wow.
Yeah, and during that time, I continued my studies with my coach Alan Savage out of New York, and I was there every week doing scenes outside of what I was doing with the show, and he was helping me hone in my skills and just grow up in it, and really just find a sense of like survival and ownership,
Hmm.
at
Hmm.
the same time, just like really understanding the journey, that this is, and where I really want to take my career, and where I take my mission in my work. And so he was he was pivotal, and he was super important, in summing it all up for me.
Right.
And then I was doing a lot of, guest stars, in all the New York cop shows, like the Law and Orders, and the
Hmm.
New York Undercover, and NYPD Blue, all those shows that would shoot in New York. NYPD was shot in LA, but they sometimes came to New York.
Hmm.
And so
Ironically.
ironically, so yeah. So I shot, anything that was in New York, I was shooting. And then I realized that there were some really interesting roles that I never got a chance to be seen for. Once I actually signed on with Paradigm back in 1995, I realized that there were some roles that I was missing out on, and I had to be in Los Angeles. So that was in 2001.
Hmm.
where I decided to move to Los Angeles and try to compete for some of the more interesting involved roles that would be casted out of LA.
Hmm.
So that was then my mission, and I came out in '01, and I've been here in Los Angeles for close to 15 years.
So what's the big difference between working in New York and working in LA as an actor?
Okay, well, New York, you obviously have more tangibility to theater,
Hmm.
so you could you can shoot on any set in New York, between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. and then jump on on the stage at night,
Hmm.
and knock out a great, as best as possible, do your best work possible at night from 7:30 to 11, and that was my life back then. That's exactly what I was doing. So I was it was such a wonderful experience to go from set to stage,
Hmm.
almost every day. And I did it quite often, and it was amazing. It was just exhilarating, and definitely for a young person, it's like you're on top of the world. You feel like such a rock star, you
Right,
know.
right, right.
But and you definitely have all the energy for that. Um, you know,
In LA?
in LA, it's more like you know. Basically, if you don't have the right, I guess, outlets, you could be sitting around, because um, sometimes me personally, I would work probably, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 times in the year. So those projects would take me about, 3 weeks to shoot each one, and unless I'm on a series and I'm a series regular and it takes me throughout the whole year, or at least, 6 or 7 months, it would be like 5 to 6 months, that I'm working, and another 5 to 6 months in between that I'm not. So what do you do with your time, So I
Hmm.
found golf. I found, an adult baseball league that I was playing on. I found poker,
Right.
but I play the cheap poker. I don't play the expensive poker.
Right, right.
I like.
You're not rolling that hard.
I know. I know my limits, and now I have a kid.
Right.
So
So
my baby boy is taking a lot of my time. So
yeah.
a lot of the outlets that I was using is now focused on him.
Isn't it amazing
So
that that happens when kids come around, isn't it?
Oh, I love it, and it's great because now I'm in more of like the seat of enjoying him, watch him grow,
Hmm.
and watching him, accept whatever things that I throw at him. Like if I throw a ball at him, or a baseball bat and a ball, just to see him pick it up and do something with it and
Hmm.
try to guide him through that. That's just like
It's amazing.
it's just an amazing experience. And even if I had a girl, I would do the same thing with her.
Right,
But
right.
like your kids, period. It's just like to see their light bulbs go off and to learn every day, and to see
Hmm.
what they pick up in about 24 to 48 hours, a new
Oh,
word, or a new thing that they do, or a new behavior. That's like the most amazing production I've ever done in my life. So
right.
that's definitely my involvement between work now for the last year and a half. Um, just basically being with him and taking him to places to see how he reacts to stuff.
So he's a big guinea pig
And
for you, is what you're saying.
he's a big guinea pig, yeah. But it's so much fun because I've had a wonderful life so far, and I hope to have another 40 years in me, God willing, at least 40, 50 years,
Uh-huh.
but with all that said, like in this time of my life at 44, I have so much to give to my kids, and I say kids because we want another one, you
Right,
know.
right, right, right.
So
And
but
I have
for
to
my
give you
grandkids.
I have to give you props, man. You are actually one of the few actors who actually admit their age publicly.
Oh, I don't care. I don't care about that.
I
And
know
you
you
know
don't.
what
I
too?
know
It's
you
like
don't.
it's after a while you stop caring, because when you do some high profile shows like Kingpin, or
Mhm.
something like that, or Thief, when the
Mhm.
series that I did, sometimes you end up doing press, and the press gets the information, and then it's all over the place. There's no hiding it.
Not anymore.
No,
It's not the
no, no,
20s or the
it's not.
30s anymore. There's no
No, no.
hiding anything
I mean,
anymore.
my look, the way I look and the way I carry myself, I eat right and I work out hard. So
Uh,
I still look about 35. I can play anywhere between 35, 36 to about 45, my age,
uh-huh. Hmm.
So So the age range is there. I mean, I keep myself healthy enough throughout my life to be able to warrant that. But yeah, I mean, the age thing. Yeah, there's certain, sometimes you would there's a sense of ageism in the business, and
Hmm.
there's isms everywhere, man. But
Right.
you limit yourself.
Exactly.
I just do what I do and I love, and I also produce and I direct and I write, and these are things that I do, also along with you know being a dad,
We'll
that
get.
are also great outlets, and for me to to stay involved and to stay creative, during
Sure, sure, sure.
any spells that there could be, if there's a dry spell in the business at all, then I'm still creative.
So let me ask you now. I'm going to get into some acting questions because I'm a director. We've worked together on multiple projects together in the over the years.
Mhm.
I've never directed you though. I do hope one
No,
day too to direct you.
yeah, it'd be great.
But so I'm going to ask you some acting questions. So this is a little bit selfish because I want to know, but
Okay.
also for the audience as well. What makes a good actor in your opinion?
A good actor is one that takes on the responsibility of the human being that they're representing.
Great definition.
That takes on the responsibility of the story being told. Every story has some truth in it, if not all truth.
Hmm.
Okay, even if it's based on nothing and it's a fictitious story, someone was inspired enough to write it. That something in their life has changed, or there's something that they had to deal with that was really specific, but they don't want everybody to know about it. It's in there, and you got to find those gems of information in every project that you do to understand that, whether it be sci-fi or based on a true story biopic, that there's a very specific reason and a very specific audience that we're trying to reach out to, and to tell a story that is somehow motivates someone.
Hmm.
So when we become a responsible actor, then the actor is now committed to communicating that story, and committed to being a part of a team to bring that whole story to light. Whereas, like, if an actor is not that committed, then it really becomes about them and about all their fears and about all
Ego and things like that. Sure.
ego and whatever else that has nothing to do with the story. So that to me defines what a really good actor is.
Now, directing actors over the years, one thing I always see sometimes is a lot of times actors get in their own way when it comes to playing a character. What would you suggest as, I don't know how to say this, but what would you suggest and how to get actors to get out of their own way? And I'm not sure if that makes sense. Does that make sense to
Well,
you?
yes, absolutely. Well, see, here's the thing. With proper training, with the proper coaches, actors find a safe space where they can create, and they can be like little lab rats, or be like little scientists, and just explore, and work with all the different colors in the spectrum,
Hmm.
work with all the different colors on the palette, and just completely immerse themselves in the training process, so that they can learn to fuck up.
Hmm.
They can learn to be bad actors, to be great actors, to just not think so much,
Hmm.
but just to create in the creative mode. Because there is no right or wrong, but
Right.
there is a commitment to the work, and to try to explore. So actors without proper training do get in their own way, because they're too worried. They don't know. They haven't explored. They haven't gone. They
Right.
have. It's like saying, okay, listen, young man, you're gonna go from Los Angeles, and you're gonna walk all the way to Europe. You're gonna walk all the way to a town called Yorkshire,
Hmm.
England. Okay,
Hmm.
you're gonna walk all the way there. Here's a map. Good luck. But if you take that person and you say, okay, I'm going to train you how to use, this tool
Hmm.
that helps you get through that mountain, and I'm going to train you how to, use this float to get to through the ocean,
Hmm. Hmm.
and
Hmm.
use this scuba gear, and and you
Hmm.
gear them up.
Hmm.
You got when you go into any kind of a studio that's worth, going to, they're gonna suit you up. They're gonna tool you up. They're gonna give you a utility belt that you can easily access after many years of training. Easily access these tools to understand what you need. So, say if you're a chef in a kitchen, in a world-renowned kitchen, you got all the spices, you got all the you got all the materials laid out, and that took years of understanding how all those spices work.
Right.
You get what I'm saying?
Right.
So a good actor who has a lot of training, a good training, not just any training, but good training, like in a good conservatory, has explored a lot of those ingredients and all of those tools to use in order for them to be able to come to a set or come to a stage and live. So what happens is, it's a process in order to have that kind of freedom, to have that kind of creative freedom, to understand when they might be getting themselves into any kind of trouble, like getting in their own way, or when they're actually in the creative flow of it. And so, a good trained actor knows when they're in and when they're out. And so, and they know how to get back in if they're out. Okay.
Right.
So, and that's why a good director, basically will try to hire the best possible actors. So that part of the job is easy. They can trust that their actors are going to, show up to work and know exactly, what story they're telling. And the director can also then freely create on many levels. He doesn't have to babysit an actor. He can now, think about the shot and think about the lighting and think about, the costumes and the colors and all the nuances and a special effect that he might have, so it's really, it's entrusting, being able to entrust an actor who is primed to come to set to work that way. So that's the key element is good training to help understand how and when a person feels like, an actor feels like they might be getting in their own way, and how do they bring themselves back to the story.
So it's kind of like, for another analogy, it's like kind of going into a boxing ring. You're not going to go up against Floyd Mayweather without any training.
Correct. Or fights.
Or any fights in general. Like, I'm just going to walk in. I'm like, I've seen someone throw a punch. I'm going to try throwing a punch.
Exactly.
And that's where I think a lot of actors do get in trouble, because they look at like, oh, I see what that guy's doing. Oh, I can go do that.
Right.
And you might get one lucky punch, maybe if you're lucky. But
if you're lucky, right?
But again,
you got to follow through, because then it's like you may win that punch, but you're not going to win the fight.
Right.
It's just that, and that's what happens with a lot of young actors who come to Hollywood, is that they come from wherever they come from. If they don't have training and they don't have a support system, they get lost in it, because they feel like, oh, I look good, and I could do that. I could be like De Niro or Brad Pitt or whoever. I could do that, and they show up without proper training and proper skill or support, and they get buried. They get buried.
Oh,
because,
destroyed.
Yeah, because they don't understand. Sometimes there's some people that that the studios will hire to, because they're so beautiful, and then they'll hire coaches for them on set, and if they're lucky, they take to heart the experience they have with the coach, and they cling on to the coach, and the coach guides them through their career for the rest of their life. Or if they're too I guess self-absorbed and prideful that they think that they don't need a coach, well, then that's only going to last them for so long, and that's pretty much it. So you need to be kind of humble in this business, and at the same time you have to be strong-willed and know that if you want a career in this industry, you never stop learning, ever.
Right. And like I always look at probably one of the greatest living actors alive now is Meryl Streep, and you watch her, and she just it just embodies whatever she does. It's magical to watch, actually, and like she just changes from character to character with a fearlessness that, and I think that's a big word to use when you're an actor, to be fearless, and it's difficult to get to that point.
Well, I think that there's a the dichotomy of that is that you got to be willing to be fearful,
right,
to know not to have fear. So
that's fun.
Like when you go to battle, when you're at the top of the mountain and you're looking down at your enemy, you there's something that happens in the gut of your stomach. Is like, this may not turn out that right,
Right.
but you're courageous enough to try.
Hmm.
And so you go into battle. So you can't negate fear, because
Of
fear
course.
is there,
Right.
but you embrace that fear, and you courageously go into the fight. And that's what is, that's the amazing part of it. Is like, some people get consumed by fear, but they don't realize that very energy is good energy, and you can make that productive for yourself.
Absolutely. Fear can be a driving force if used properly.
Correct.
Now, can you give any advice to actors about the brutal auditioning process? Which I've never been in front to audition for someone. I've always been auditioning people, and I try to be as nice as I possibly can to actors that come in. But I've seen other casting sessions that are absolutely just brutal.
Right.
What do you? And I'm sure you have a couple stories. Uh, what kind of advice can you give actors about handling that kind of brutal auditioning process?
Well, this is a 20-pound question. I mean, it's a big one, but I'll try to break it down as quickly as I can. I mean,
Sure.
basically, when you're handed the material from your agent or wherever you get it from, you commit to it 100%, and you learn it, and you research it as best as you can, so that when you go in, you have creative freedom, so that you're not tied to the page in your hand, so that you can, uh, do your best with that, and give an interpretation of the story that is, on the page already.
Hmm.
Then, on game day, before you go in, you want to feel like you've put in the hours, you put in the time, you've done your best to prepare. Now just go in and celebrate. Go and celebrate like you're actually shooting. You have to have a
Mm.
sense of, like, ownership and acknowledgement of the fact that, life is a rehearsal. You don't have to get it right. Enjoy the process. So you go into the room where you're waiting for. Yes, there's 20 other people, but you know what? God bless them. They're going to get theirs someday. You're going to get yours someday. It's not up to you. It's really not up to you. All you can do, the only thing that we have power over, is celebrating our preparation. Game
Mhm.
day is celebrating our practice. You know, when the
That's
guys go to the Super Bowl, they've been working hard all season, and they continue to still practice, their weaknesses. And then when it's game day, when they say, okay, it's time to play, and the whistle goes, it's a celebration, man. And then everything else just comes off you, man. It just, everything comes through naturally without you even thinking about it. And then understanding that you there's nothing else you could do but that, because the director and the producer and the writer, they're in the room and they're looking for what they wrote. So if you don't happen to be exactly what they're looking for, it's nothing against you. They love your work, and someday they might actually hire you on another project. And case in point, that's happened to me several times. I wasn't right for a certain part, but they love my work. I went in there with that attitude that I talk about, and they love it, and they hired me later on.
Nice. Yeah, like I always try to tell actors, like sometimes it's just not personal. Sometimes they're not looking for a 5'10" Latino. Sometimes they're
Right.
looking for a 6'5" black guy,
That's right.
and it just that didn't get to you. And
Right.
unfortunately, before the auditioning
Right.
process,
But don't let that shut you down. Just go in
exactly.
there and rock and roll, because you never know. They might even write you in. They might love you
I
so much they write you into the project.
Right, and that's happened. I've seen that happen many times with actor friends of
Yeah.
mine as well. That you just got to
Yeah.
do. I was interviewing Robert Forrester a while ago, and he was just always saying the same thing, kind of like, do the best work you can, no matter how small the part is, no matter how small the audition is. Just bring your game
That's right.
every time, and good stuff. Only good things can happen from that. It might not happen every time, but eventually something happens from that.
Yeah. Amen.
Now, what kind of advice can you give about handling rejection? Because I know that's a huge part of being an actor.
Okay. Could this be our last question, or can we continue this another
Oh,
time?
do you need to head out?
I do need to head out, but I can answer this question, and then maybe
Yeah,
we'll pick
and
up another time.
absolutely perfect.
Okay. So rejection, you have to have, like, skin of steel, basically. And again, if you go back to understanding, how and why we go into to the audition process, then it doesn't matter, the rejection, because it has nothing to do with you.
Hmm.
If you did your best, that and you claim and you put your stake, you put your stamp, this is my brand, this is how I work, this is who I am, this is what I love to do, this is how I prepare, and it all comes out in the story when you tell that story, when you're dealing with the other actor or the casting person, and you have this great, wonderful, genuine rapport with the other person, and you're really in the scene, and you really give yourself over to the scene and to the other person, and invest yourself in that way, then you did your job. There's nothing else you could do. If you did your job, you did your job. You walk away, and now next time, I'll do the same thing again. One of my friends, Jacob Vargas, is so sweet. I've worked with him several occasions, and Kingpin Chavez, etc. And my boy said it right. He says we're career auditioners. That's our career.
Mm-hmm.
We go in every time, like we're on set, we're working, we're getting paid for it. And I went in on 1,000 jobs maybe
Mm-hmm.
in 30 years of experience of this entertainment industry, and in my mind I did 1,000 projects. On IMDb I did 70 projects. you
Right,
know
right, right.
but that's how you psych yourself out for this whole thing. You just say, you psych yourself up for it, because you just say, listen, this is my career, this is what I do. I meet people all the time. That's what I do, and every time I meet them, I give them my best possible scenario, my best foot forward.
What would you consider to be your big break?
Big breaks, I guess, would be Kingpin, because that was the biggest audience that I was able to share a story with. 25 million viewers showed up to watch
Wow.
the first episode, and we beat Dragnet and Sopranos that Sunday. I remember it
Nice.
vividly, and then the scheduling of the show got kind of wacky, so the numbers kind of did a little bit of a jump, but we maintained about 15 million viewers by the end of the 6th episode, and until this day, 10 years later, or rather 12 years later, everyone is like, "Hey, what happened to that show? Why can't we see it again?"
Yeah, I know you said that.
Yep.
Is that what
So
you get? Is that what you get mostly recognized for?
yeah. I mean, I would say, yeah, 90% of the time when people see me, they go Kingpin. you know. But then I have a nice group of people that actually watch a lot of different things that I've been in, and they catch me on or whatnot.
Mhm.
But I got to say that would be the show that broke me in. And Alan Coulter and David Mills, God bless his soul, rest in peace. They were so great to give me that opportunity and to rest that responsibility onto me.
Now, as an actor, what kind of experience is that? Because that's a very unique experience for an actor. Being kind of thrown into the spotlight like that. I mean, it's not like you're an overnight success. You had been working for years before you got that shot.
Right.
But
Right.
but I'm imagining as an actor that what was the experience like being thrown in front of 25 million people? Like, how does that work for you?
It was fantastic because you said a key thing. I've been in the business a long time prior to that. I've already working, on film and television for about 12 years prior to that experience. And in all the experiences I've had in different shows that I've worked on in like guest starring or recurring roles, I had the opportunity to work with a lot of people that were, the leads in shows and the series regulars. And I got a sense of like what I wanted to bring to the table for production, in terms of like the family atmosphere, the synergy, the synchronicity, the flow of happiness, and just I feel like when you're on a series, and if you're a series regular, it starts from the top. So spread the love and bring everybody together and make them feel like they're part of something special. So I made it very clear to everyone. Number one on the call sheet is not my name; it's the production, it's the show. The show is number one, and we're all here to serve the piece. And I gave everybody the best, support that I possibly could to help them and help me bring the best, product out there for the audience. The best performances and the best love. You see that kind of camaraderie and that kind of family atmosphere that you get to play with from day to day. It does show up on the screen. The result is greatness, and that was a wonderful experience for me to have that responsibility and give people that kind of support and love that I've always wanted to do. When eventually someone gave me that responsibility, it's about sharing. It's about bringing everyone together in like a one big happy party, and
Awesome.
family. So yeah, that was fantastic.
Yancey, real quick, you're wearing your earbuds, right?
Yes.
It's rubbing up against your shirt. So if you could just hold the
Oh,
mic part, that would be
okay.
awesome. But other than
Okay.
that was perfect.
Okay.
So Yancey, you've done a ton of TV work over the years.
Sure.
Now, how does that differ from your filmmaking experience?
Well, it's because television was I guess, the avenue that I ended up being on quite frequently, especially after a show like Kingpin and whatnot. It's been a challenge to get into the film world because it's like eh, you have to be careful not to become too popular on a TV show. But I'm lucky that I didn't get too overused or overexposed in any particular production on television. So I've been blessed in the way that I've played a lot of different characters,
Mm-hmm.
and so when a film producer sees me as an actor, they're like, oh, that guy's interesting. He's always doing something different. Yeah, I know that face, but yeah, okay, yeah, he's a good actor. Okay, maybe he's right for this role. And if I am, great, I'm on the film.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been working hard to get myself more into film as of late, and for quite a long time, rather, since I moved here in Los Angeles 15 years ago. But every so often, I pop up in some films and some big blockbusters, a lot of independents, and in the independent world, I realized that, in order for me to basically, kind of bring myself to the attention of the film world, I have to kind of create my own projects. So I started producing,
Right.
writing, and directing. And I'm on my sixth project right now. It's coming out in theaters early next year, around March, called Restored Me,
Mm-hmm.
which is something that I produced on and I acted in.
Nice.
Um, and then I have about three other films in development that we hope to shoot at least one or two. So I hope to shoot in 2016 two new films for the public. And a lot of my stuff is based on true stories,
Mm-hmm.
suspense thrillers, or maybe even action. Just because, like, that's kind of the world that I love so much. And if you're gonna, commit time outside of your acting career, you better do something that you really love, and you can put a lot of focus and attention to, so that it drives your mission forward, whatever it is that you want to say in the world, or whatever it is you want to help with, in the world.
Now, you've also worked, like you said, you worked on huge tent poles, and you've worked on small TV shows.
Right.
What can you tell the actors listening? What is it like working in a big blockbuster, like kind of like the day-to-day vibe, and also any advice you can give to any actor who might get on as a day player or on a big show like that? Because it's a very different experience than being on an indie project or on a television show.
It's Indian television, okay, specifically,
Mm-hmm.
it's not very much different. It's pretty much let's move. You have to shoot
Right.
a lot of pages in one day, because for a television series you have a week and a half to shoot what's supposed to be a whole episode that could 45 minutes of footage, and indie you have to shoot in 18 days. You're lucky if you get 25 days on an indie film,
Yeah. Yeah.
so 18 days is not a far stretch from 12 days,
Right.
so you do have to hustle, and you have to be in shape, and good form, that you're eating right, you're getting your rest as much as possible, you're working hard, you're doing some exercise. You got to stay healthy, because there's no time to diddly dally, you know what I mean? So you really have to, understand the piece you're in, give it your 100%,
Mm-hmm.
emotionally, physically, spiritually, mentally, the whole nine yards. So you got to be ready for all that, so it moves really, it's an animal that is definitely a little bit different from the studio tempos, because those films, there's a lot more money involved. There's a lot more time involved, and there's a lot more intricacies involved, especially today with the visual effects and all the wonderful, toys and gadgets that are involved in some of the big films that you get to play with, and all the green screen, this and that. There's a lot more waiting around and prep for those kinds of films because there's millions upon millions of dollars involved,
Hmm.
and rightfully so. They want it to be an amazing cinematic experience. Whereas in television and indie films, it's so much more story, story, story. And, if we get something spectacular visually, amen. But, we got to get this movie in the can or get
Right.
this TV show, sent off to post so that it can make it on time for airtime, you
Got it.
know?
Yeah.
So in terms of like, the difference really is more, against the, big blockbuster films, versus the TV shows and the independent films, mind you, if you have a week or 2 weeks to prep for a TV show or an indie film, you do everything that you can to get, look under every rock creatively, as to understanding what the piece is, what you're fighting for, what you're trying to achieve in the whole, story, and your relationships with everyone, and understanding, how, the significance and the free fall that you're going into, working in that speed and giving your absolute best, for the story. Whereas when you do a big blockbuster, you have about a month or 2 months, maybe even 6 months prior to shooting. In one case, I had a whole year before shooting on a blockbuster,
Which one was that? Time? Was
to
that Time
prep for it.
Machine? Was that Time Machine?
No, well, you know what? That was a 6 month waiting period before I got on Time Machine, and
Right.
then Live Free or Die Hard was about a
Hmm.
2 month waiting experience.
Hmm.
This is an indie film, but not really. This is called Hands of Stone, which I was part of, and it's coming out next year through the Weinstein Group
Hmm.
with Robert De Niro and Edgar Ramirez. And that particular film, I got the part almost a year before I did the role. So, and the role, as you will see, is a pivotal one in terms of like who fights Roberto Duran in New York City for the first time ever, in the history of Roberto Duran.
Hmm.
I coincidentally had a whole almost 7, 8, maybe almost a year, like 7, 8 months to a year before I was on set, and it gave me plenty of time to work out, boxing wise. And I just boxed my butt off for, every week, like 2 or 3 weeks, excited to, to join the cast. And the biggest compliment I got was when I finished a couple of the fight scenes, I came off the ring, came out of the ring, and
Hmm.
Robert De Niro comes up to me and he's like, "Hey, are you pro? I mean, what gym you work out of?" And I was like, "Oh shit, yes, thank you, Lord God, thank you, Mr. De Niro, for that great compliment, Mr. Raging Bull."
Right.
Because
Right.
fuck, like as an actor, you want to be able to disappear in your role. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Hmm.
And for him not to know that I was an actor on the set, that I was actually, he thought because I was actually an actual real fighter. That was a
Right.
huge fucking compliment.
That's a huge compliment.
So that was a testament to my hard work for the 17 months to the year before I got on that set. Yeah.
And now you were also talking about directing and producing. You produced a film with one of our guests, prior guests, Kiko.
Kiko,
Yeah,
yes.
the Shooting Star Salesman. You
Yep,
were the
yep,
star of that one, and
Yep,
we
yep.
talk a bunch about that in the episode. But that must have been fun. You did a great job in that short. I remember watching it in the beginning before
Yeah.
before it got released. I was like, man, it must have been fun.
Oh, it was fantastic. And, I'm trained, classically, and I went to conservatory, Carnegie Mellon in Pittsburgh. And, so when I read the script, I felt like it was such an eloquent piece, and I felt like it was something that you never seen me do before, and so I really wanted to challenge that, myself and the piece to see a Latino in that role. I mean, when it first came to me, Kiko didn't know what he wanted to do with me on the project, if I just wanted to produce them or not. And I read it, and I was like, who you have in mind for this? Well, we were thinking like a 60-year-old white guy, And I was like, well, God bless the 60-year-old white men. Love them all. But you know what? I want to play this role.
Right.
And I want to do my take. And, and he was like, oh, wonderful. That sounds like a really good idea. I was like, yes, it's a brilliant idea. Let's shoot next week. Let's shoot yesterday. Before you change your mind. Let's shoot yesterday. So we got into it, and we had the best experience possible. And we were so in love. I mean, the actual short is playing so much for the last 3 years
Hmm.
in all these different festivals, and,
Hmm.
and it's garnishing awards and whatnot, and acclimates, and we're just like, oh, let's shoot a full length feature. So
Yeah, I
now that's one
know.
of the other things we're in development with, that we're trying to make as well, and we're just working on the script right now. So
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah, so we'll hope to see that film in the next 2 years.
So, speaking of working with the director, what do you look for as an actor in a director?
Okay, well, if I'm working with a director, okay, having directed already,
Hmm.
for me, like, I know and I appreciate, like, being able to, like, talk to my actors when they need me. I don't like to be in their face. So basically, like, I trust my crew, I trust my actors, and I set up cameras in such certain ways that it's like I want them to feel like they're almost on stage and they're having a live performance. So, like, they're creatively flowing and nothing technical is getting in their way. You know what I mean? So, like, I almost feel like I'll put zoom lenses on cameras so that they
Hmm.
they we're in tight, but they don't know we're in tight. You get what I'm saying? So I
Right.
want them to feel like I want the audience and the crew to be like flies on the wall, watching something like really dangerous happening right now.
Hmm.
So I give them that space, and I like that. I like directors who give us space, because they're giving us the respect and the honor of knowing that when they hired me, that I'm gonna bring the goods. I'm gonna bring my preparation and allow that preparation to be a celebration on set. You know what I mean? And it's not that I'm trying to say, like, actors should take over. No, that's not what I'm saying. It's like, if when I'm hiring somebody, I'm looking at mostly, you know, trusting, knowing, okay, this person is brilliant. They're great. They do their work. They do their homework. They're responsible. They know they're kind people. They're loving people. They care for the piece. They're gonna bring something. Let's play. So I like, obviously, like, before we actually start production, maybe a week of rehearsal, just to kind of get in there, get dirty with the director, knock out all of these wonderful, moments and scenes, talk about things that, we'd like to achieve in all the scenes. And then, finally, when we get to set, that we're all on the same page. We're not, wasting time on things that we didn't explore yet. We're actually we're expanding on the exploration that we had in our preparation and our rehearsal. You get what I'm saying?
Hmm.
That
Hmm.
if anything gets stopped, or we think for a second about anything, it's only about expanding and moving forward, rather than um, stopping and not having had that prep time, together. And then
Got
the
it.
other thing is, like, sometimes I feel, and this is nothing against certain directors or whatnot, everybody has a different way of going at it,
Hmm. Hmm.
different roads to the top of the mountain. And as an actor, I understand how to work with all of them. It's my respect to them and their craft, because it's not everybody's wired the same way.
Hmm.
But I do kind of tend to like some of the directors who, they're brilliant at what they do, and they understand and respect what I do. And, the talking is minimal. It's more about the doing.
Hmm.
And if I need another take, let's do another take, because I have something special that just came up out of the moment, that perhaps I didn't hit or didn't jump off the cliff on. And let me give you one, for shits and giggles. I'll surprise you.
Hmm.
Even if it's an improv, it's something that whether it be on the page or off the page, that is something creative that allows us to to be. And so, I feel like sometimes certain directors like to talk for talk,
Hmm. Hmm.
to feel their importance. And it's not, it's sometimes an insecurity thing. And I
Hmm.
understand it. And I respect them for feeling that way. In a way, it's a compliment to me that they want to share that moment with me, and they want to talk about something, you know. Um, but a lot of times it's like, just have faith in your guys and just do, just lead the way. If I'm off track as an actor for anything, please come in and help me get back on track.
Right.
But if I'm driving this and I'm doing my thing and they're getting it, and I'm attached to the story, you know, some really good directors know how to leave their actors be and just, you know, basically just be like, oh, you want another one? No, no, you're good. Okay, great. Let's move on.
Right, 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 right.
It's not even, it's just knowing when you have it. Some directors don't know when they have it, and
Yeah,
it's
that's what Robert Forrester said. He's like,
yeah,
I asked him the exact same question. He's like, I like a director who knows when they have it.
right,
That's
right,
a big
right.
thing.
It's a big thing. It's a big thing because otherwise it's like it sometimes it gets kind of sticky and a little muddy. But I think that at the end of the day, as an actor, without my director's hat on, as an actor, you have to be able to work with everyone and everyone's style, and just basically adapt. And remember that you're invited to a party, and you have to respect everyone at the party and love everyone at the party, and just own your work, and be ready to to adapt and to, I already said that, but be ready to complement the project and to collaborate with the project, because no matter what you came up with that is so brilliant for your, that you feel you want to share with the audience and what you want to share with the production, things are going to slightly alter, for one reason or another, technical things, or story wise, or whatever, things do change. So be ready to change, be ready to adapt, be ready to flow. So it's just like being a fighter. You know what I mean? Like you can basically train for 16 months prior to a big fight, or 3 months or 2 months or 1 month prior to a big fight. And in that preparation, you think of every possible thing that you have to do to fight that opponent. But when you're in the ring, when it's the fight night, dude, anything could happen. Anything could happen.
Of course,
so
of
you got
course.
to be able to just flow and adapt, and go with it. You know what I'm saying? And you're brave enough to go through it. Try to win. And if you did win, great. But if you didn't, at least you were brave enough to try. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's good advice for life in general. Just kind of go with the flow. Anything can happen at any time.
Exactly. And don't freak out when something doesn't seem to be wrong, because what you think might be wrong actually could be a blessing.
Oh, I've had that too many times in my career. Too many times.
Cup half full, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yancey, hold the mic a little bit off your shirt. It's still rattling.
Sorry.
You're good. Okay. So I have a couple more questions. Are you good? Are we good on time?
Yeah, so far. Yeah.
All right, cool. Any advice you can give a working actor on how to make it as a working actor in the business?
Well, here's the number one thing. Anytime you get the opportunity, remember that you have to appreciate it with every ounce of your body and your soul. And then, prepare yourself to do the best work you possibly can at the time of your life that you're in. Because every time you go in and do work for any production, it's about being consistent every time. Like always bringing your A game. And I know it's exhausting, but you do it because you love it. And there's no other reason why you need to be there. It's simply because you love the story and you love to be on the project, and be prepared. Because once the audience then feels that love that you brought to the table, like basically like you're serving a dinner, a beautiful dinner every time that you're going, that you're put on a show, and so like every time you invite the audience in to sit down and give you, your attention for, 45 minutes to 2 hours, it's this amazing dinner that you prepared for them. So otherwise, if you don't have it that great, then people don't want to come, to dinner anymore. So the more that they're always bringing something delicious, different, something great, something interesting, and your work is always on point, 99% of the time, because remember, you got to leave 1% for failure, because failure is good thing. It's a humbling thing.
It's the greatest teacher.
But right,
you don't learn by winning all the time.
Exactly. You'll learn by failure as well. But your turkey ain't always going to be as delicious and scrumptious. You know what I'm saying? but at
no
least
thanks. Right.
If you're right for Thanksgiving, right?
Right.
If you're consistent, right, and giving and preparing the most delicious dinner, doing your best work, then people will pay attention and people want to keep hiring you, and that's how you become a working actor in this business. And the other thing that you have to do to also be, a working actor is that you have to have a lot of different things that you do. You have to learn how to dance. You have to learn how to sing. You have to learn, you got to know your shit as an actor. You have to, you have to pick up an instrument. You have to do a lot of different things, because sometimes a certain role calls for it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go in on it and you don't know anything about that, it's going to be difficult to cast you. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because then, you want to give the producers and the director no reason to say no.
Uh-huh.
You know what I'm saying? So you're going for a role and there's a specific skill attached to that role. You want to know something about that.
It's a general statement, right?
Yeah, exactly. That way, so sharpen your skills when you're not working on different things, whether it be dance class, singing class,
Horseback riding,
guitar,
right.
horseback riding, motorcycle riding. Be safe, guys. Any kind of contact sport, boxing, martial arts.
Mm-hmm.
Be good. Respect your body. Understand you can't hurt yourself either.
Mm-hmm.
But train. On all of these different arts. Because you're going to be called upon to have to come up with that skill, and it's very apparent when you don't know what you're doing. And because of television and independent films move so fast, and the preparation is so small, you want to have a head start. So there's a big thing about vision questing. I call it vision questing because I say to myself, look, you know what? I haven't been called yet to play a guitarist, or someone who's like but like I think of myself as like someday I'm gonna play someone special in history who played guitar. So I play guitar. So I work on it like every day, even playing little nursery rhymes to my son. As long as I'm doing it, you never know when I really have to do it for a job. You know what I mean? I'm lucky that I do sing. I've been singing since I was a child, and I've done it on Broadway, and like we talked about before. So if there's a singing role, I sing. So I'm going to bring that to the table. I say all actors should learn how to do, especially learn how to sing and learn how to use their voice, learn how to dance or do yoga, because it's really important. You don't just act from the head up, you act with your whole body. You're communicating with your whole body. So you got to learn how to use your instrument fully, your full-on instrument from head to toe, so that, you can apply that to being consistent at work and also being ready for something that might surprise you later on that, oh my God, I've been in dance class all the time. Oh, this is a big dance movie. Or it's a big ballroom dance movie. Like what happened with, what was that movie?
The ballroom movie, Strictly Ballroom.
Strictly Ballroom, or another movie that Robert De Niro did. The most amazing film of 2 years ago.
Silver Lining Playbook.
Silver Lining Playbook, exactly.
Yeah.
So the characters didn't have to really know how to dance, but it's good to know something.
It helps. It helps with the part, without question.
Yeah.
Now, are there any pitfalls in the business that you can warn actors about?
Pitfalls, I would say the pitfalls are like in life. Don't expect so much. Don't expect that everybody's gonna kiss your ass or throw flowers on your feet. You appreciate every opportunity you have. Be humble. Because if not, people will see that, smell that, and they don't want to work with people that don't appreciate to be on a project. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people I know that shot themselves in the foot because, they think that their poo-poo don't stink. You know what I mean? And they get bad reputations, So I say work hard, be humble, do your best, and try and bring love to the table and nothing else, I think also, good training, get yourself in a good, space, a good workshop or, a good class that you can work out for a couple of years that you feel comfortable with and safe in, and you can rock your best creativity, find a way to work out in spaces like that so that even, as a working actor, you're still always growing, in between, and you're still you riding the bike in between work, because sometimes, if you don't work for maybe 4 or 5 months and all of a sudden you got a job, then you got to jump back on the bike and you got to, kind of start the pedaling again. Whereas if you're already there and you've been in, another production or working on something for yourself, to expand your muscles on a character that you never played before, that, you know, you're ready. And as soon as someone calls, like, bam, okay, hello, let's go. And that, you know, what happens is some actors get lazy. They don't work on their craft. They think that they know it all. And, you know, like art is an evolving thing. And so, you know, you never got it. You never,
Right.
and if you feel like you got it, then you're dead, really, creatively.
And the one thing that you said that was, I think it should be made a point of is like, you're just like, yeah, for 2 years, you have to do this. Like, this is not a short thing. This is a long process to become a really good actor. It takes years of determination, years of work.
No, yeah. I mean, I still work out, and I'm 30 years in the business. So yeah, I mean,
right.
you have to. I say work out because I look at a class like a gym.
Right.
When I'm in a class, I'm a structure. I'm working out. You know, that's my workout time. That's my therapy time. You know?
So, last two questions, the toughest questions by far. What is one of the most underrated films you've ever seen, and what are your top 3 films of all time?
Oh my God, 3 underrated and
no, what? No, just 1 underrated, 3 top.
1 underrated film and 3 top. Yeah, that's a good one.
I told you it was going to be the toughest.
Yeah, you're going to give me a second on that one. I'm going to start with the best of all time.
Okay.
Okay. Maybe the underrated one will come to me. But,
okay.
You know, Godfather.
Of course. Yeah,
you know, Godfather 1, 2, 3,
5, 6, 7.
Yeah, right. That to me is the, you know, I could just, you know, what film is so great when you could, like, after 30 years of being in the business, anytime it shows up on, like, you know, any network or any cable channel, you stop what you're doing and you watch. And if you don't have time, you go, you're like, oh, I got to see that again, and you go pick up the DVD and put it in the machine.
I have a few of those movies, yeah.
You know, and it's now as a director, producer, writer, even more so. It's like, you know, if you have a film like that, you go back and refer to shots.
Of course.
You know, and you go, oh my God, look at that camera movement. Oh my God, look at that amazing, you know, panoramic shot that they have, or whatever, you know, or the way, just the interesting lighting or anything, you know. Cinema Paradiso.
I love Cinema Paradiso.
Beautiful foreign film that, in terms of story and simplicity,
and heart and
soul, passion. I mean, it was, you know, just so it just got me right away, you know, when you, in terms of story and in terms of, like, all of that, you know, inspiration, you know, it was great, you know, it was one of those examples of a fantastic movie that was probably shot for very little and very humbly, but with a lot of love and care. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So Godfather, Cinema Paradiso, and gosh, I mean, hello.
Whichever
Star Wars.
There you go. Okay, fine.
You know, as a kid, you know, it's like you grow up with that, and it's so hard to get away from that. Today, the kid in me is so excited when the new Star Wars is coming.
I've never seen the anticipation. The last time I've seen anticipation for a movie this much was probably when the prequels came out. Like, that was but even now more so, because,
oh my God, yeah, because the technology is so amazing, and J.J. Abrams, like, kicked ass with Star Trek 1 and 2, that it's like, you can't wait to see what he's going to do with the Star Wars.
You know that most of Star Wars is, he shot it old school, practical.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I can't wait.
I can't wait to see how he pulled it off.
Yeah.
So, Yancey, where can people find you online?
You can find me at www.yanceyarias.com. I check in there all the time, and you know, you can actually go to my forum and ask questions, and I answer. Also on Facebook, Yancey Arias, and Twitter, and Instagram, and now Periscope.
Are you a Periscoper?
Yeah, no, I'm a Periscoper. When I have a good connection, like, I'm on the set of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. today, and obviously I can't be on set with the Periscoping, but I can be in my trailer.
Not so much.
I can be in my trailer talking about it, you know.
Right.
Obviously, I wouldn't talk about any plot, you know.
Of course.
Specific, you know, I have to respect my due diligence and silence. You know,
of course.
To the project, but, you know, I can just say, hey guys, you know, I'm doing, you know, this show, watch me, you know, in the new year, you know. But so So yeah, so you can find me on all those social medias. And this 2016, at least the first quarter, you're gonna see me quite a bit. I'm on Agents of Shield. I'm on Bosch on Amazon. I'm on Criminal Minds Beyond Borders is the new Gary Sinise show. Not Gary Sinise. I'm sorry. Excuse me. Please scratch that. Wait, is it? Wait, in New York. CSI New York.
Okay.
What was the one that
was the one?
Gary Sinise?
That was Gary Sinise. Yes. CSI New York.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm thinking somebody else. I'm sorry. I'm thinking Craig Kinnear for some reason. I don't know why.
Okay. Yeah.
Kind of similar actors, but no.
Yeah.
Gary Sinise is amazing. Anyway, so Gary Sinise has a new show called Beyond Borders. It's the Criminal Minds
brand, right?
Flagship, and I have a film coming out called Restored Me. And I also have a film coming out called Hands of Stone. So you can catch me in a lot of neat stuff in the first quarter of 2016.
And Hands of Stone is the one with Robert
DeNiro.
with Bobby. I like to call him Bobby.
Bobby De Niro. Hey, Bobby. Hey, oh, Bobby. Yeah.
Yeah, I've actually seen I saw the trailer. I'm not sure the trailer. I saw the poster for sure. I was like, oh.
Poster, yeah,
and he's like, he's like the trainer, right?
He's the trainer of Robert De Niro. Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, Roberto Duran.
Yeah,
he's the trainer, and we have and then in my film that I produced that's coming out, Restored Me. It's got a really interesting avenue that we're going because we're bringing a lot of spirituality to a very urban, edgy, based on a true story type film.
Oh, awesome!
So. It kind of goes in the faith-based market, but then it also dances in the, urban, suspense thriller world. So it's kind of, and we have some really wonderful actors that you would be amazed that I was able to pull out, from my Rolodex of friends, people that I've loved over the years that I've worked with, and they've supported me and I've supported them. And, we just try to make it a love fest on set and, bring actors, much like George Clooney and Steven Soderbergh, use a lot of the same people. That's basically what I'm doing. I'm trying to, I'm taking a page off their playbook and bring friends to the table, and we have a great time. So
that's
we have
awesome.
a great dinner. So that's a really fun movie that I think a lot of people appreciate once it comes out. Restored Me, because you'll see a lot of the people that I've worked with, and you'll go, oh my God, yeah, he worked with on that one, and he worked with on that project, and that,
Yeah.
So, and then you get it, and you're like, oh, I see where Yancey's trying to go with this project. It is a big, family affair every time we do these things.
That's so awesome, man. Thank you so much, Yancey, for taking the time out and sharing your experience with the crowd, and hopefully people get something out of a lot of this wonderful information that you laid out for us today, man.
Fantastic. Good stuff, man. Hope it helps somebody.
Thanks again for being on the show, brother.
You too, bro.
Sometimes you just meet people in the industry that you just love, man. And Yancey is one of those guys. I absolutely love Yancey and would go to battle with him any day of the week. He is one of those souls that is there. He's such a giving soul, and he's such a great, he's also a very great actor, but more importantly, he's just an amazing human being, and I was blessed to have him on the show and share a little bit of his nuggets of gold nuggets of information that he has. Anytime you can hear or listen to somebody who's been in the business for a long time give you advice, it's in your best interest to listen. And I was listening as much as interviewing on this one as well, because I've talked to Yancey a bunch, but I've never had this kind of detailed conversation with Yancey before. So it was a big treat for me, and I hope you guys got something out of it as well. Now, guys, don't forget to head over to filmmakingpodcast.com and leave the show an honest review. It really helps us out a lot. So thanks again for all the support, guys. I hope you guys are getting a lot out of this. I'm loving it and enjoying doing this show, and plan to keep doing it for a long time to come, to want to try to help as many filmmakers as humanly possible. So keep that dream alive, keep that hustle going, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to the Indie Film Hustle podcast at indiefilmhustle.com. That's INDIEFILMHUSTLE.com.